just record. It was
Super.
intense.
Yeah, good.
It was a lot. It was a lot. Um, the Mick could share a bit. He was in one of the 2 days. Um, yeah, they were all packed, meaning we were turning people away in most of them because they were full. They were coming from all over.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like a build up.
Yeah, we were in the 2-day like facilitator training in Rotterdam. There were 27 facilitators and then the team, and I'd say it seemed like people went pretty deep. For me, it was profound and connecting. Very, yeah. I can't really find the words now.
It's something really specific to what happens in events like these is that there are so many bodies and we're having to speak to different events happening in people's bodies. There would be these particular ones where people would fly in from different areas. Like Paris was like that, and Belgium was like that. It wasn't just Belgians and French. Rotterdam was interesting because it was one specific group that does a kind of Kundalini process that came about partly from someone who did CAP and did an online inner dance training. It's like a strong group in the Netherlands that really took off. So the energy there would be a little bit more centralized, meaning it's the same style. And then the other places would be people from background, old inner dance community, CAP communities and whatnot. And we have to speak to all these bodies. We have to find different varieties that people can access. Different playlist styles. We use like the DJ app, the noise app, the synthesizers, and we would need to make sure that there's a connection between what's being shared philosophically, spiritually, and scientifically alongside what was being demonstrated in the music. So in general, I often say I've never experienced that before. And I've never experienced that because the body didn't move, but then I went somewhere, you know? So it's very often like that, speaking to the process in people's bodies, speaking to the, let's call it the histories of the energy as they play out in each playlist system. And we would have these interesting sessions where we wouldn't just playlist particular songs or particular sounds. What we would do is we would playlist particular playlists. And these would be playlists that would represent different zones in the whole history of inner dance from, say, 12 years ago or 10 years ago, 5 years ago. So it would be like the womb room. It would be something to do with songs, something to do with the spoken word, something to do with noise apps, something to do with the synthesizers. And those usually are explosive because we would feed them some of the old energy styles that's to do with the music. So it brings up a lot of emotion, but then we take it away and then we bring it back. And it's like a whole review of the history of the energy as it gets compacted within like a 90-minute radius. So it's like a conversation between dimensions, I would say. And the whole goal of the events was actually to play with this concept of coming up with 3 inner dance journeys. One would be called the becoming space of time, which is to come from the personal into the earth or the cosmos. The second would be called like staying there, don't go anywhere. And the third would be the becoming time of space, which is to bring people back from the cosmos or the earth back to the human. So to demonstrate dimensionalities of time and space, where sometimes it's more spacey, sometimes it's more personal, more, human. So that's like a short compendium of what happened. I don't know, Italy could share if she wants. Carolyn was in Finland as well, and she's actually booked a ticket to join us to Turkey at the last minute. She did it yesterday. So we're gonna see her again. She was there at the first, and she's gonna be there at the last. So let's see what that bookmark does. They're the 2 long 5-day processes. Okay, so I think this call is interesting. Thank you for being here. It's a functional call. What we're going to go over would be studying a way in which we could bring more collaboration where hardware and software is concerned. We don't necessarily have to talk about the one synthesizer, or it's specifically called the Groovebox, that Mario and Michael have, that I'm also using. We could use it more as maybe a metaphor or a portal that opens up to a set of possibilities. So if there were hardware or software possibilities out there that would be affordable, much usable, what we're interested in is how we can actually construct inner dance specific packs that would be shared around the world. So all people would have to do is to, instead of downloading someone's playlist, they can download someone's pack. And when I created a pack, actually only one so far on Circuit Tracks, and I shared them with Mario and Michael, and they gave good feedback that I thought, okay, maybe this could go somewhere. Circuit Tracks is about I think $400, but people can actually find secondhand or pre-owned units that would cost like $100 or $200. So it's portable. It's something people can carry. They can use it alongside an iPhone or an iPad because it has like a built-in input system. And I thought we could just demonstrate this to some people. I also offered Michael and Mario like a specific session where we could study how these tracks can be created so that they can start constructing these and sharing them. I haven't studied if it's possible to actually export the Circuit Tracks packs so that they could apply to other synthesizers. Maybe we can ask Mario and Michael to share in the beginning, because acquiring the machine, it's not actually super simple in the beginning, because you need to get used to an extension of your body. And then there are these knobs. What I don't particularly like about this synthesizer is it doesn't have a screen. Okay, this is what it looks like. It doesn't have a screen. It's a bunch of knobs, it's a bunch of buttons, and it doesn't, when you change a setting, let's say I go to the mixer, I go to the projects, it's the same buttons. You're working with the same interface, all these, and it doesn't really tell you where you're at if you don't know the settings well. So it takes a little bit of practicing to understand, okay, what did I press again? Where am I? I would say it takes maybe a day, a week, it could take a month to learn the thing. But when I did send like a whole bunch of packs to Mario and Michael, I didn't just send one pack. I collected about 15 or 16 pre-made packs that were made by others. It's quite empowering to suddenly receive that many options. So I want to see what that did to their brains after going through a time of experimentation. Who wants to go first?
Can I?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay. Hi, everyone. I know many people. We are 8 people. Yeah. So, Pai, thank you. Thank you again for your gift. Yeah, there are 16 packs, and the one I use is the Inner Dance pack, as you suggested. And as you said, you don't have a screen with this device, okay? But what I found immediately after turning on is that it's like to have a bunch of windows, no? Each button is you can open a window around you, so you can easily find where you are and how to move. There are scenes that are very complicated to understand the sub level that you can where you can arrive. So, but this device is incredible because even if you never use a synth, I think this is one of the most intuitive device in the market for me, from my experience, as I can say. And then the fantastic thing is that you can use it without plugging in with cable. Is 4-hour battery. So if you are inner dancing somewhere, if you don't have access to, and then you can move on the room, you can move along cable. It's for the jack cable. It's fantastic. I didn't use it a lot, many sessions, but in the beginning was just a support for under DJ app, no? So using My Noises DJ app, and sometimes giving just a little touch of this by trying some sounds, some synths. And a week ago, I was talking with Walita, my wife, in 2 weeks. So I was talking with her, say, I think I have to find something more. I need something more to do this. I need some sounds, some new sounds. I don't know what to do. And 5 days later, a fantastic gift arrived to me from you, Pai. So, and it changed everything because you can program each button with some a bunch of sounds. You can put in this button some delta sound, some delta setup, delta settings, no? And then you can have some theta, beta, and so you can organize your session because you know where you can find the different sounds and for different moments. This is a way to set it up, and then there are infinite ways. So it's very easy to take off the drums. It's very easy to switch from one scene to the other, and then you have a mixer function that allows you to control each synth or drum machine or MIDI that you want to connect to it. So it's, for me, is one of the best toy that we can use during a session. And it's a very close next step when you want to leave for a moment Ableton and dedicate your time on the live only with one machine, for example. Ableton is beautiful, it's super powerful, but I don't know, here you can have everything in one hand, and for me it's a good solution. And when we have your classroom about how to use Ableton, in the one we did some months ago, I felt like I was a little limited on, because I need my laptop, I need to move, and with a laptop I can't. So I was looking for exactly this. This is my style. No, everyone has their own. So this is my review for my experience, very short experience. So now a new chapters begin with as you say, Pi, I'm okay for some months, but don't leave me. We can keep in touch and share more with all the packs that you share. So it's with the Inner Dance pack, there is a world to discover. So thank you.
Yeah, amazing. Michael.
Everything Mario said. Yeah, I mean, I first got the circuit tracks whenever I got it, and like found it very intuitive to start playing badly. Like it was very easy to figure out which buttons to push, and it sounded bad. So for a while, I've been using it, plugging it into Ableton and using it for like drones or sequences and arpeggios of like weird, computery, bleepy bloopy sounds to add some texture. And I also I've plugged a Volca FM2 into it. And so one of the cool things that you can do with it pretty easily is use it as a controller for other synths. So it can become kind of the control center for an entire session. But kind of like Mario, I got a little bit frustrated with it. I just went, well, I don't really, I can't figure out how to craft the sounds to make them inner dancey, because even some of the sound packs are very kind of dancey or techno, and they didn't have the right texture. So yeah, same as Mario Pi, when you sent over the inner dance pack, I was like, oh, now I can play. And so I've really been enjoying working with the projects that you included with the pack and building on them and messing with them to kind of tweak them, and also learn more of the vocabulary of the circuit tracks, because it is like, it has its own, all these tools have their own language, right, in terms of how the buttons are laid out and even the terminology they use. Like today I just discovered what a scene is in circuit tracks, where you can save mixer settings within a project. Didn't know that was a thing. I'll also say that there are like a ton of really excellent YouTube videos that walk through kind of step by step how to use a lot of the features of the circuit tracks that unlocks a lot of nuance and specificity that isn't obvious just by looking at it. So yeah, I've really been having fun playing with it, and also plugging it into Ableton, because I found that the effects included with the circuit tracks aren't super great. Like you can't make it too weird, but if you plug it into Ableton and like process it using Scatter or any plugin, really, it can sound really, really cool and take people to some pretty fun places. So yeah, I'll echo Mario's gratitude. I feel like a whole new level of fun with circuit tracks has kind of opened up just in the last few days. Also, I haven't slept much because I've been sitting in bed with my headphones on, just like playing with all the buttons. So that's fun.
Amazing, right? Yeah, I'm excited, not because I'm using this more. I'm not using it at all. I'm excited with the fact that something can be collaborative, hardware-wise, because I've been wanting to ask in Studios Mundos, does anyone have circuit tracks? Because I have so many packs and I want to download them. I want to upload them. I just want to give them away. I use maybe 1 or 2, 3 at the most, but I thought they might be useful. But I didn't actually know that you can upload them outside of the machine or outside of the program that it comes with. So I was quite pleased and shocked that I was able to do it a couple of days ago. And it opened my mind to, okay, actually, so then that means other people can create their own stuff. And that means that I can create even more stuff if I knew that I wasn't just going to be the one to use it, because I had the same frustration. I acquired a whole bunch of packs just with the hope that, okay, I'll find something that's usable. So I've downloaded like Psytrance, all kinds of techno, all kinds of new agey things, and none of them actually worked as they were. So what happened was my son goes to Taekwondo twice a week, and I have to wait while he's doing this kicking, punching, screaming things upstairs. I have to be downstairs and I have to spend that 2 hours. So I would always bring this with me. And then what I started to do is I tweaked sounds that I didn't like until I realized, okay, that sounds like inner dance. And then it actually took me about 6 months to practice enough to be able to make that inner dance pack. And I made other ones before, but I threw them away, and I'm always busy with other things and other gadgets. But for me, that's exciting. It's actually quite exciting to look at the hardware. I really believe in hardware. I don't feel that a program would essentially do it for many, for the long term. I don't also feel that an app on a screen is tactile enough for an inner dance process. So I think it is eventual that people who would like to have more control over vibration. And when I say control, I really hate wording it like that. It's more of when the energy takes over you. And then you feel like certain changes need to happen in terms of the tempo, the texture, the tonality. What you want is the energy to speak through you. I do believe that a lot of people might be able to do a lot with MIDI controllers and apps, and probably because I just don't spend as much time on screens as much as I do with knobs and sliders and buttons. That could be really collaborative as well if there were ways to save packs on apps. I think that's something we can discover. But for now, because I had all these, the packs are software. So I wanted to give them away, but they're actually quite useless if people didn't have the hardware. So I was wondering if there was like a hardware that was usable, because Michael and Mario had this same one that I had. I don't have any other synthesizers that kind of have this small slot where the micro SD card could slip out and you can have external storage. So I think that's one of the things that I like the most about it, that you can record stuff on it. Because I have two of them. I have the Circuit Tracks and I have the Circuit Rhythm. And they're both more or less similar. It's just that this one is more like a sampler. So I can do some things with this that's not as easy with the Circuit Tracks, but actually everything this does, the Circuit Tracks can do as well. All right. The difference would probably be that the Circuit Rhythm has there's like eight drum tracks that can receive samples from the outside. The Circuit Tracks has only 4 drum tracks. Maybe let's demonstrate that. The machine comes with 2 synthesizers and 4 drum machines, or 4 drum sounds. So this is in the mixer. If I wanted to turn off the sounds, then they're not lit up. Oh wait, sorry. I think I need to actually then share my screen sound. Share. I haven't been in Zoom in a while, so desktop, share. Now it's in my screen. Sorry, so you might have to look at the actual. Yeah, you know. Okay, of course, it's not going to be a sound because I just offed the buttons. I know, I can't do anything about it. So that's like a synth. It's another synth. And then these are the drum sounds. So the basic thing that it does is it allows you to play 8 sounds at the same time. And what makes an 8 is there are 2 possible MIDI inputs where you can play extra sounds that's coming from the outside, which could either be from an iPhone, an Android, an iPad, or even a laptop or a mic, which goes in here. And so you can plug 2 things into here, so it acts as a kind of mixer. So yeah, Italy's complaining about the echo. We won't go long. Just maybe do some other samples from the pack. So when you change like a button, you're basically changing a vibration, and then you can alter the mood or whatever's happening in the room. This is the first sound better that was destroying the sound. So this is the mixer. It's already quite useful to be able to reduce the sound. So one of the techniques that's really powerful and useful here is there's actually something about the act of reducing or limiting rather than adding that does a lot more. So when you have like everything on at the same time, it's actually quite useful to just keep reducing, taking things out rather than adding things in. So you can have the breaks in between. And then when you feel like you want to build things up, and what I normally use the circuit tracks for is the master clock. So when I wish to change the tempo, it's what I use to speed things up. And I can control Ableton using this. And I can control the other synthesizers using it as well. So the speed jumps to be very subtle. Okay, so this is for Mario and for Michael. Michael, I'm pretty sure you're already doing it. How the question would be, how do you change the sound if in case that you're working on something and you don't like it? Just so you guys could experiment with creating your own.
Excuse me, Pi, but there is a big echo.
Yes, I know. I couldn't. Okay, well, I can't share the sound if I can't do it without the echo. So if it's disturbing, then I'm just gonna stop because I couldn't. I tried to
Okay.
I tried to troubleshoot, but I couldn't figure it out last minute. So, are you fine with the echo then, or never mind?
Now it's all good.
It's all good, yeah. We don't have a choice. We'll just be kind of messy today. It's one of those days. Okay, so where were we? Yeah. So how to record would be the question. It would be, let's say you play something And then you would switch from sound to sound. So let's say it would be synth 1. And then I think you need to press. You would alter things. Okay, wait, let's just quiet everything down so it would just be that. So you create the alterations here according to what you wanted. So let's say I even want to change the preset altogether. It's the same notes, but now it's a different synth type. And when I'm happy with it, I just press save. Just press save. And then the next time you go back to it, then it's now that new sound. So then you can go from sound to sound. Let's go to synth number 2. So let's say it's this one. And you wanted to alter it. So let's say, let's choose another preset. And then if you like that, then you press save. So now you have those two things. It's quite general, and yeah, for those who just joined, the general point is looking at possible ways we can construct like musical packs using different different synthesizer groove boxes. Actually, I want to demonstrate the circuit rhythm just a little bit, just to let you hear the difference. The sounds that I just played in the circuit rhythm were actually all sounds from the Noise app that I sampled, so that it sounded maybe more inner dancey than the circuit tracks, because there wasn't any actual rhythm there. There wasn't the usual drum, the bass drum or the snare, the hi-hat. But what I want to say is I can actually just import the sounds that I sample. Either I can do it in Ableton or I can do it from circuit rhythm, and I can just move it to circuit tracks. So I don't think you technically need the circuit rhythm to make the circuit tracks more inner dancey, because I do have packs that are more noise based in circuit tracks, so that it doesn't sound dancey. That's what turned me off from the Novation machines. They just sound like dancing tracks and they just didn't seem usable. So I think what we would study next would be how to just import these samples onto circuit tracks. So this is what people could play with. Because any sound you have, it instantly loops it to make a rhythm out of it. So it could be totally off, but because it's pre-wired to achieve a certain algorithm, then you would get away with almost like anything, which is what Michael was trying to say. You can actually make mistakes once you introduce a certain sequence, because it's a sequencer. The mind and the body starts to acclimatize, and it actually just starts to hold the space together. Yeah, so that's it. I'd probably go more into it at length, but yeah, the thing's not working out sound wise. So maybe we could just use this call to hear from everyone and check in. And, do you guys have any questions about the music thing? We just opened the conversation to the group in case like people were interested, but this is something we were gonna have to do between Mario and Michael, and maybe that's all I wanted to show, just to get this to a collaborative field at a certain point. Are you guys good, like Mario and Michael? Is it like
Yeah, but yeah, it's yeah, beautiful. No, it's fantastic. It's there are a lot of things more. No, it's you show a lot, and it's a super powerful machine. I want to keep playing with this. I want to start to explore inner dance packs first. I can upload nothing more because the SD card doesn't work, but I figured it out how to solve this problem. But yeah, it was a good review, good explanation, good I saw a couple of things that inspired me to do something more, and everything is inspiration. So thank you.
Did you get the SD card to work already or not yet? Yeah,
No,
okay.
I bought 128 gigabyte, and it's not
Those big
working.
ones don't work. You need to go to the website and look at the ones that normally work. I had to look for those. Not everything worked.
Yeah, I did it. It's a SanDisk 128 class 10. It's okay, supposed to work. But in the chat, in the forum, I saw that sometimes they had a lot of issues about the SD card. So if in case of this kind of problem, I saw that you have to buy a small one. So 8 gigabytes, something like
I've
that.
got an 8 gigabyte. I'm just checking now.
And it's working.
Well, I filled up the whole, like everything. Up with.
Yeah, so for me it's okay. Thank you so much. It's good.
Okay, yeah. So I'm looking forward to maybe receiving packs from you guys at one point. See what you guys can come up with.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of fun things is introducing randomness into the sequences. So because it can allow you to run sequences backwards, forwards, you can mess with the probability so it'll skip steps. And so I've been playing with, getting the loop running and then messing with it and watching people get mad. Because they're and how does the mind grapple with the sudden introduction of just randomness to what it started to perceive as a reliable cycle. Yeah, also my SD card didn't work either. So I'll try getting a smaller one. I think, was there anything else on it in particular? No, I mean, the other thing that I've noticed as I was playing with the Inner Dance Pack before I started listening to the projects that you'd created, Pi, was like, it was so interesting that the way the expression of those same patches came through me was totally different than what you had constructed. Like it's really cool how differently it expresses depending on who is configuring the exact same set of sounds. So I think that could be really exciting from a collaborative standpoint. Instead of, trading playlists, we actually essentially traded bits of sound language and saw what different people put together.
Yeah. I think what it does is when you have something to jump off from and then you can recreate it, then it's a structuralism in that way, so that you're decomposing and then you're recomposing a thing just through the activity of letting it run through you. So that there really is nothing original. One way of looking at it is you can never actually perfect a pack, so that you can work on a pack and it could take forever and you would never be satisfied with it, because every time you listen to it, you make even one small tweak, it changes the sound almost completely, and there's no aesthetic judgment that says this is better and that's that's worse. Almost everything actually sounds good once you take away some of the musicality that makes it too much kind of music, and less of a inner dance is really not musical. It's more experiential. It's more it takes you out of what music normally does to you. So in a way, what you're doing is you're destroying or deconstructing something that sounds more human, and you're taking it to levels that's almost subhuman or superhuman or subordinate human, intrahuman, transhuman, meta-human, or weird human. Because otherwise, if you just wanted like the human, you would just play them Beyonce, or then let's just go do the thing. But it's really the way you can alter things, and sometimes it's modification, that's addition, that's subtraction. Yeah. And what's pretty cool about it is you're not actually limited with the 8 buttons, because you can add more sounds to even just a singular track, like a singular drum track. You can just keep adding more and more layers there, so you can have as many as, I don't know how many sounds, maybe 30, 50 sounds going on all at the same time. So I'm not actually a master of this. I'm just discovering it lately. And I mean, I've had this since last year, a year and a half ago, but I haven't spent as much time as I should with it, because I'm doing a lot of other instrumentations. But I think for a first synthesizer, this could be definitely an entry point. So your feedbacks were actually quite helpful, Mario and Michael. Yeah, I guess we can open up the call more now. There are interesting experimentations. Gra put out like a new playlist that seems to be making waves. Who else is here? Ahilan and Fanny are always experimenting with all kinds of stuff. Caro had bought like a new synth a couple of months ago. I don't know if she's gotten anything new. So if we're going to stay within the music creation process, and if this is what called people to this particular gathering, then maybe you can see what they're working out that's interesting for us. So who has anything that they could share? Just a musical check-in.
Hey.
Yeah.
It's not a check-in yet, because I actually didn't know what a circuit track was, and I was late for the call, so I'm like, okay, this is what's happening. Hi everyone. I was actually having this question this week, that I'm gonna allow myself to buy one gadget and not lose it this time. So I was gonna ask you, like, what would be, among all of the things that you've experimented with, what would be one thing that is like, oh, this is like multitasking, pretty cool to handle and do inner dance stuff, you know. Because I do have the Launchpad yet, still that one is not gone, but I see the limitations with that one. So I was like, what would be something cool to carry and to have, you know? And I was looking at the circuit tracks now, and it seems pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that would be like one option to have around,
Yeah.
and that would be it.
Yeah. So just a quick one on that, and then we still would like to listen to what your process was when you created that last playlist that you sent out. The circuit tracks, I'm not particularly one to push a gadget on people because I think people should do research. The one reason why we're bringing this up, just to let you and others catch up, is that we found out, the Circuit Tracks owners found out that we can actually collaborate on the creation of like what you call a pack, which is a collection of sounds. A pack is really powerful. It gives you maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 times 4 is what? 32. 32 times 2 is 64. So you can have as many as 64 projects, and each project could be a collection of, I don't know how many sounds, like 30 sounds. So it's like thousands of possibilities, maybe combinatorially speaking, if I could make up that word. So like what I've been doing was I was downloading these packs. I would spend like $10, $20, and I had this collection. So this could be like a consideration for people like you or anyone else, that if people had this, then I'd send you my collection. So then you get to save up on 16 times 10 or 20. It's like $250 worth of packs already, which is worth the machine. Because when you get the machine, it's not easy to work with. You can create or construct your own packs. It comes inbuilt with ones you can download on the website. But the fact that I was able to construct an inner dance pack that I use, then I can share that instead of sharing a playlist, right? And then Michael is interested in sharing a pack, and Mario's interested in sharing a pack. So what I'm sensing is we could just share packs. I could label it, okay, that's the Gra pack, that's the Mario pack, that Mario pack, that's the Michael pack, and it's like a project. So the difference between the Launchpad and the Circuit Tracks is the Launchpad is a MIDI controller and it's not a standalone synthesizer. So you need to connect that to a program like Ableton or Logic or Bitwig, and it just controls the program, but it doesn't have its own sound. So we are suggesting the Circuit Tracks because you have synthesizers in it, and it's actually also a drum machine. Like you actually have a sampler, and Johanna here actually has the same. She got the same, and we were demonstrating it. We were going wild in the dinner table, just recording each other's sounds, and it was really cool. So what you could do is you can pair that with the Circuit Tracks. You can sync it so that the tempo would be synchronized, and anything else that you add in, you can. I should have demonstrated it, but you can put in your iPad or your phone and put in the noise app on top of what's happening in the Circuit Tracks, and that's really what makes it work. You can have the ambient noise generators, and on top of that, you would still need access to rhythm. So I think it would change a lot. Number one, if people are used to the apps, you can't carry it around the same way because it demands like a cable. So you would set up usually a certain DJ booth where you would run to every time you wanted to change the vibration, aka the rhythm or the texture. So that's our reasoning for bringing this up, because it's already a shared platform. Then it's something for us to consider, but we're not going to force it. We're just going to bring it up today to see if that's interesting, and people could look at the pricing and if it's something doable for them. Yeah, does that help?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I was just like looking at, oh, maybe this is what would be the gadget. The thing that I could record things, from that one from Turkey, right? That one got stolen with my bag this year. So this is why like it's really tricky. It's really tricky. But yeah, thanks. It really helps. I'm gonna check it out. But I like the idea of mixing the unusual stuff to make music out of it. I actually like, since I've started doing playlists, I usually go for like weird or different sounds, especially the ones that, like, things that are recorded from plants that I can find on YouTube, and I tend to use them way more than songs actually. So yeah, I guess I used more songs in the beginning. So I saw this shifting, and like the fact that, I don't know, as a non-musician, I was able to create that music really like clicked something, and it's really nice and reassuring when I hear like, okay, we're not doing music. I'm like, okay, thank you. I don't need to go into that hole, because this is definitely like a different way of seeing and experiencing music and all of that. Yeah, on the playlist that I made, it was actually the first time that I recorded, and it was my first playlist maybe in a year or two that I actually recorded and did it for a purpose of recording. I was doing playlist live since I've left Maya and started Holding Space, and it was usually like with all the apps that I had, and I guess that gave me also a lot of background to do more focused experimentations with the apps and all of it. I did get a little bit bored with the the Launchpad app on the iPad, because of course it is too dancey. I managed to find some tracks that are a little bit like not so techno dancey, and I've been trying to do experimentations that with the effects and all of that.
Is that her?
Moment processing that with myself. Also, I had a session that they had a grandma like in the self doing some playlists in their with like in the background while they were doing some activities. So that day I actually got home and I had so much energy, and I was like, okay, maybe this goes somewhere, and it went to the playlist. And I actually I really enjoyed the fact that I could find more harmony between the themes and the things there. I have no idea about chords, like what a C or an F is. But as I was playing, the playlist, and as I was producing it, I kept hearing in my head like a C, and then I was looking in Google, what is the C chord in the keyboard? So I was doing the C chord on the synth, and it was fun because I was like, okay, now see and the piano. So it was an interesting thing to see how sound like was making itself through me. It was crazy, which maybe is what happens when people make music. But yeah, that the part I really enjoyed, seeing how things are coming more into harmony, and also this progress. And actually, like a lot of people that came and gave me feedback, they gave me feedback that was related a lot to the body and how they were finding spaces in the body through that playlist. And yeah, so I'm studying now these feedbacks, and every now and then going back and checking what is actually happening here. What were these weird things doing? And I also, like, last session, I had a session, an online session this Sunday, and I kept, like, while making the playlist, I kept hearing in my head the names of the lobes, like temporal lobe, or I don't know, in another moment, there was this moment that I saw my heart, and then this line coming up, and frontal lobe, and like, okay, what's happening with the heart and the frontal lobe? So I keep getting this unusual things that are coming, like with these names now. Also noting them down to see maybe there's some science that is coming from this weird spirit, with this unusual way of understanding. Maybe now I get to really, like, study the brain and remember, because these are things that I always read but I never remember. If you ask me now, what is the temporal lobe, like so maybe now it's coming in the space. But I've been noticing more and more how this language is becoming like a language that I talk in these spaces, and also how I keep feeling these things in my brain as well, and being able to identify that in my process, and also in people's feedbacks when they are talking, and like bringing up their experiences and all of that. So it's been a pretty fun ride with all of this. Thank you.
That's great. Yeah, it's really awesome. I think the transition is really interesting to listen to. The transition between dimensions and styles, and which we're languaging through music. What we noticed during this trip is that a lot of people do actually have resistance to it, to what some people call the new music. There's so much interest in many because it's doing a lot. It's pushing buttons, and it's pushing people over the edge, but it's not comfortable for many. And the music creation part, there's actually a resistance in some, because they would rather do what they're used to doing and just pressing play and pressing bodies rather than buttons. Just probably really cool too. So I think it's always interesting for us to listen to our transitions to new ways of channeling the energy, and what you brought up with not just thinking about the brain and the heart, but actually experiencing it. It's like to have a literacy means to be able to observe the structures within domain of knowledge, or domain of of a thing. I think there's a lot to learn from that. It's going to be phenomenologically intuitive and not just.
Or maybe not. Now, I've been noticing a few things in sessions. One is just starting to think of the entire session from the moment somebody signs up as that's when the playlist starts. So it's not like the music is 70%, 50%, and then there's so much, like for in-person sessions, I've started offering tea at the beginning, and there's a conversation, and inevitably, right, the themes that surface in the conversation are woven into the music, and everybody's experiences somehow touches back on those themes that were present. And so it's been really interesting, assembling my ragtag production studio, and also thinking of it in terms of, well, what kind of teacups do I want to present the tea in, right? What's the flavor of the tea, and what are the frequencies and vibrations of that entire experience? right? That sort of gets woven into the sound vibrations as well. And people feel it. Like there's people who have been coming to the in-person sessions since I started doing them in like January, like they feel a difference and they have kind of a different, deeper, not even deeper, but just a different experience of it that feels somehow very complete. So that's been super interesting. And then also noticing that, really loving how people who have been coming to the online sessions consistently, like you can feel, or they can feel, how their systems are becoming more familiar with the energy. And so they're able to navigate it differently. And as the facilitator, as I'm kind of mixing with all the buttons and sliders and Abletons and whatever, I find that I'm able to, or called to, make things much more complex now, both because I know how to, but also because it feels like the system wants more complexity than it did like 3 months ago. Yeah, it's super interesting. And also noticing, recently I was on the East Coast and did a session for a few people, and it just landed totally differently and weird. It was just weird in the bodies and the way that the land even that we were on interacted with the energy. The feedback, it wasn't bad, it was just completely different, which was pretty wild and fun to just notice, and also how it felt different in my body there as well, like same energy but presenting differently, like kind of a different lens on it. Yeah, super,
Oh,
like never boring.
Are you, how much are you able to adapt to the changes in the situations or the mood?
Mhm.
Are you constructing things on the spot, and how are you doing that?
So sometimes it kind of depends on the setup in the space. So here I pretty much do, I would say 60% of it on the spot, and 40% is like a backbone that's playing in the background in arrangement view on Ableton. Um, when I'm able to, I kind of like to do closer to like 85% of it on the spot and just play with not just my noise, but synths. And now I'm going to work in circuit tracks now that I have sounds that make sense to do that. So in Vermont, I actually had to use a recorded playlist because they just had a Sonos speaker. There was no way to there was no way to adjust things on the fly, because you can't, or at least I don't know of a way to do any live mixing on those types of systems.
Yeah, those are great. Thank you. It's really nice to listen to, what people are working on. It's like a sneak peek into the process. Okay, who else might be interested in contributing to this conversation? Like whatever it is that you're using to hold the space.
Hey, hi everyone, it's Caro. Yeah, maybe I can check in about where I am. It is slow. It's really slow. I am in this place of slowness, and but the device and tools that I'm using, I bought the Pulse 2 from Waldorf, and also I can use one synth of my partner, which is the Virus T1, the Virus One T1 that I really love, which is like not a full analog like a synth, but it's digital analog, but it's like how do we say in English? You know, in French we say couteau suisse. You know, it's like a Swiss knife. You know, it has everything, and it's really pleasant for me. I'm like more into the this phase of discovering the gears, you know, because I easily got lost into the sounds. Like I'm exploring. There is so much, and there are so many things that I resonate with, and I am in this space of letting, you know, myself like just be into the sound and creating sound. Also, this is really new for me, and I have to thank Inner Dance and thank you, Pai, for this process, because now I am like kind of naturally, organically attracted to compose like sounds, like a kind of music. It's not really music, but it's like baby steps, like and on it. And I told her it was in July, I think. I've seen myself like. I have this Virus T1 that it has a keyboard, so it's all in it, you know. I have the knobs, I have everything. I spend a lot of time on it, and I need to put my shit together because otherwise, you know, I cannot go further. And so I play with the keyboard and all, and I start to sing. I listen to a vibration, and then I sing, and then I sing another notes or the keys. So I'm able to compose like some mini sequences with my voice, and I repeat it on the keyboard, and then I use all the distortions, envelope. There is so many things, and there is so many dimensions out there. So I need to be really disciplined, like someone that is disciplined, because otherwise, like it can't last forever. You know, I can get into this space and not sleeping, and you know, be during the day, during the night, and just like a geek, and like trying everything. And but I need to organize it. So I am in this space, and with the Pulse 2 also, as I have. You know, like a small station at home, like sound like everything like a setup, I would say. I don't have the great sound card, the sound card that I have there. It has only 2 channels, so I cannot plug many things. So I'm still into the, you know, discovering how to set up everything. And I started just getting started with Ableton, and also about my husband. He told me that there is a function in Logic Pro also that does like Ableton. So I am in between the two software, like trying to figure it out. But I'm not in a hurry. But I want also to more organize this. And it's funny because you were talking about packs. And I am into this kind of direction. I go toward this direction somehow, and I'm interested also. I don't know if I would succeed to do that, but maybe kind of classified like vibrations, all sorts of vibration for more data stuff, theta, and everything. You know, that has to see with the the brain oscillation. So it's huge. That's why I'm like it's really slow, but I'm also like a yoga instructor, and I run a yoga studio. So I need to go out of the computer, and I need to go to the reality, to the people, which is my my thing that is grounding me. But I'm trying to rediscover myself through that, because I have changed so much. I've seen you guys in Paris, so I'm feeling better. After that, it was really pure medicine, as I was saying, the closing circle of Paris. Thank you very much, deeply. And I'm like just reconstructing myself, and now I feel there is something like really more like kind of detached, and the emotion is still there in every aspect of my life, but I can manage it better, I think. and now I'm more conscious about the waves of life, and that it's gonna be all right, whatever will happen, and that we are growing into this energy as the energy is growing, and I feel stronger and still sensitive, and sorry, but I fucking have a lot of things to do, a lot of projects in my head, because I'm having a lot of ideas, and I just need to structure, and I'm in the time of growing up. So yeah, thank you for listening.
So I've been using an app called Mixpad. So I'm very new to this kind of technology or working with sound. And so far it's very simple. I'm able to blend lots of different sounds on top of each other and muck around with tempo and make a lot of distortion. And so I've been creating playlists in advance of my sessions, just so that I can press play and then turn my full attention to the group that arrive. I have about 15 people on average per month that come to a session, and I get about 80% of returners, which is lovely. The feedback that I've been getting, people are going extremely deep, and some people are taking months to integrate from one session. And so I have a little structure that I've created that we arrive, we sometimes have some tea. I do the playlist and I work with scents that Joanna had introduced in Finland. And I bring I have a frame drum and some other instruments that I can play with. And I also dance. When the energy begins to take care of itself, I begin to dance, and I am moved also, which I'm finding really fascinating, what's happening for me at the same time. And then it's taking people a long time to come back from their journey. And so we take about a good hour, actually. It's taking them at least that. So I bring crayons and paper, and they draw and write to help bring themselves back into sort of prefrontal cortex, to integrate the experience further. And I also do bring some home baking so that they can earth the energy in the body and have a sense of, I don't know, my love and care for them. And then when I go home, I take care to just track my own experiences, to notice my dream, and then I send a group email out in the morning, and I detail how it's been for me through the night, with the open invitation that even if it's 5 years' time, the door's always open if they want to get in touch for some support or to share where they are in the process. And what is happening is it's continuing the conversations for people, because they're recognizing that, as someone said, the dance doesn't stop when the soundscape does. And I'm finding that this particular structure is working for the people, certainly, who are attending. But I'm very keen to learn about working with synths, and I've got the Ableton Live Lite, and I'm traveling to Paris tomorrow for more training. So I'm going to start playing around with all these new toys. And ideally, I'd like to be able to do everything live. You know, this is where I see myself next year. But I'm also giving myself just, you know, the time and space to, I don't know, come into my own with this. But I feel like a real baby in everything. But it dawned on me about 3 sessions ago that I have to stop looking with my eyes. I was like trying to see things that my eyes can't perceive. And so I've stopped looking with my eyes, and now I'm feeling with my body. And what I do is I go around the circle and I just let my body tell me what's happening in someone else's body. Like if I get a block at the back of the occipital lobe, when I go past 2 people, I'll go backwards and forwards until my body figures out which person it is. And then I know to go to that part of the body. And so that's how I'm kind of navigating the space, so that I'm not just touching just for my own sake. I'm trying to be far more attuned to what's happening within them. So that's kind of where I am at the moment. Just, yeah.
I have a question. Does it feel like the movement, because you're dancing in the room, but this thing is interesting, where you would like gra, like feel parts of your brain or your body. And then is there like a relationship in terms of how you're positioned and how, you know, it's just really interesting how you can sense people through not just proximity, but it almost feels like the dance, the dynamic movement, like is doing something.
Yeah. I don't know. What I do know is that some people are seeing the dance in their inner dance. And I've had feedback where, and then I had the sense that there was energy dancing or there was a color moving in a certain way. And I never say, maybe one person very specifically made reference when I was actually moving and dancing close to them, that they had this sense of the goddess dancing with them and etc. etc. So it's really, I don't know what I'm trying to say. But in the last session, it felt as though the energy was moving me, and I had to hold this blended consciousness of not going so into it that I would lose the capacity to hold space also. And what I've also noticed, and I'm sure everybody knows this already, but the intentions that I'm holding whilst I'm putting the sounds together, I'm noticing that people are perceiving that, or the themes that I'm trying to perhaps put into the soundscapes, people are picking up on, and it's supporting their dancing. Like, for example, I went down to a 4-day witch revival in Lancaster, and it was about a group of men and women who were murdered as witches. And it was a very powerful reclamation healing. And so I did this particular soundscape with sounds that reminded me of witch and also of the cosmos. And I worked with it down in this particular part of the country and then brought this soundscape back up to Scotland. And everybody had experiences around, I don't know, Burns as witches, you know, they all had their own experiences of witch within this, and I never said anything about it to them. It was, they were experiencing that themselves. And when I did an origin one in Findhorn, and I used a lot of sounds of Africa, but very, very subtly, everybody had experiences of going right back to the point of creation and that true sense of belonging. So I have this sense of, okay, I have a real responsibility and duty to be very aware of where I am and what I'm doing with the sounds, because it's finding its way through.
Well, you could use a song, you know, a song could be a building block, and then you put a whole bunch of building blocks together, and then you can construct something out of the building blocks, because that's what they're for. It's for building. And right now we're not using just songs, we're using sounds. And that isn't just for building, it's also, it can also unbuild. It can help with the unbuilding or the deconstruction process. It takes a different kind of channeling when you're working. Either it could be like a raw sound, it could be the voice, it could be the drum. A channeling experience is really when something wants to come through that doesn't belong in time but in space, finds himself being woven in time, being birthed into time. And time's interesting because as something's born, something's also dying at the same time. So the process of construction needs to be a process of deconstruction, and you put yourself somewhere in the middle to be able to do that live. To hear about the power of the movement along with the power of channeling the sound allows this thing that doesn't belong in time to be able to traverse or to make its way in, you know, to just like punch a hole through the wall or the veneer that separates what's there and what's here. Suddenly, like it's here. So intuition, yeah, it's interesting in that way because we are able to hold something a lot bigger than usually what's being held. So I think where this connects with the creation process, like the actual creation process, spirit, what we call spirit, and there can be other words, what we call spirit wants to speak through us all, like something bigger, some bigger vision, some bigger memory. And it's learning to do that right now in nonverbal means so that something could be heard and something could be felt and seen. And so for me, when I learn a whole bunch of things, to speak to something Caro was saying, I don't think we should get stuck with trying to master an instrument or spend too much time in the computer or on the screen. Whenever I find like an effective tool that holds something inner dancey, what I do is I learn it just a little bit and then I leave it alone. And then I wait until I'm going to pick that up at the right time, either to practice with it or at the time when some kind of spiritual accident or synchronicity is about to happen. And when I expose myself to a range of expressions in the nonverbal, it starts to matter, like the small amounts of time that I spend, not big amounts, but really small amounts of time spent on giving the energy a language that's either going to be sonic or tactile or from what you're sharing, like olfactory, so it's not just about sound, it's about like how people are touched, how people are moved, how people are smelling the space, which holds like a lot of memory. It's like a lot of activation. It actually takes a lot of courage to begin with to evoke depth in that way, especially to hold it like in a multi-layered way, so that what we call intention, there's something very deep in the way the word intention is being used that's not just like an intention. The philosophical term intentionality by Husserl means a lot more. It's the monad, it's like the purest essence. And then in that way, it's almost like a tracing of all the metaphysics of presence and absence that makes something what it is and what it is not. It just extends all over the space. And when we hear people having to spend a lot of time to come back into the body, to come back into their names and their person, it means that we're actually able to allow this to happen. Because when you think of intention, an opposition to an intention would be an extension. So I feel the way we're actually using the word intention, what we also mean is to intend is to extend. That's the intention people are holding within the inner dance space holding. It's actually to extend, to stretch out and to expand, to make bigger what we normally suffer from, which is to make something really small and condensed and compacted. It's, you know, so giving the energy this languaging, giving it these tools, you know, like making these small commitments to what's happening. And it was spoken several times in some people's sharings. It's growth. The energy is just growing, and the energy is just learning, and it's just almost structuring. It's also becoming aware more and more as it goes deeper and deeper. It's not just blanking out. It's not just spacing out. It's growing. So these conversations are really helpful because it helps to perceive how we're all growing apart, yet we're growing together. It's like all this growth is happening because it's similar work. It's shared work. It's like we're not really present in each other's spaces, but the energy is it's similar. It's growing. It's taking in inputs, and anytime someone does something different, which the courage and creativity and innovation and wisdom and spontaneity, then there's growth happening somewhere because it hasn't been done before. So new connections are made. Something that wasn't possible became easy. Something that seemed impossible, something weird, some super unlikely situation where people would be laying down in that context and just ended up there. It's like you had something to do with it because, you know, somewhere along the sequence of possibilities, you know, it just keeps ending up in more and more weirdness and more and more possibility. So it's going to grow because what we're feeling is there's diversity, there's you know, like people listening to what's in them that's going to be like its own thing that is dynamic and just keeps changing and changing.
Yeah, I think I want to share something on the growth part because it's been really a wave of growth since I left Palawan. And just now I actually remembered that when we were in Turkey last year, I was saying like how for the first time after many years I had the sense of self, that this is the self after a lot of 3 years of journey and deconstructing a lot of stuff and pooping in the bush a lot. And then it's been almost a year now since I had that realization that, okay, now I have this sense of a self. And I've been seeing how there have been so many moments that I actually had to choose spaces in my head where to go, like almost like if I say this word right now, or if I do this action right now, I know that this will open this door in my body, mind, and it will take me to that personality. So I've been looking today at the fact that we have agency, or this power of choosing what personality we're creating, or what persona we are creating, what is coming after what is dead dies. And I do know that it's not that there I know that I'm not creating it, but it is creating itself. But at the same time, there is this sort of agency there, like, okay, I've built some experiences already. And something interesting happened yesterday actually, because for the first time I had this this thought that when I die, I will just be dead. I will cease to exist. I will not remember that I am Gra anymore, and that thing is not going to be here. And it was interesting for me because usually, like, I'm 30, how old am I? 31. I'm 31 years old, and all the times that I thought about my death before yesterday, all those times I would picture my mom will cry, the people who will find my body will do this, and my niece will be going through these waves of, you know, like grief and all of that. So it was always thinking about what other people would be going through my death, but never actually thinking about how it would be for Gra to die. Like, what would that imply, which is total, I don't know, emptiness and fullness all at once. That was actually pretty scary, in a sense, to experience that. And I feel it's also connected with what I've been experiencing for a year now, when I go into these spaces where nothing is real and everything is just, you know, like there is this very huge detachment between things. And something interesting happened, and it was coming to my mind today, that last year when I was in Barcelona area for the first time, Cajo and we held a session in her studio. And that day before the session, I went outside. I started walking on the street bare feet, and I had the feeling that I could just go and walk, and there was nothing there. There was this sense of nothing matters. I can just walk wherever and whatever without needing anything and without needing to hold this space. There is nothing there. You can just walk. And this feeling has been increasing and increasing more. And sometimes I get into these spaces, and this is also when it comes into my facilitating self, this thing that thinks that holds the space sometimes, how when I'm doing the music or holding spaces, there are some frequencies or some moments in which I stretch. I keep stretching the sound through movement especially with the shepherd, like balancing and playing around with the shepherd sound. But I also have this sound that I downloaded from YouTube, which is like the length of human hearing. Like it goes from to very slowly, so you can actually really feel the expansion of things in many areas of your brain through your ears and your body. And I've noticed that since I've been exposing myself more and more to those stretching things, when I'm holding the space, I'm also doing like this is also doing something into my body. And there are some times that I'm really, really, really close into reaching that death and nothingness space, into like Gra is not Gra anymore. She doesn't exist anymore, and she's not here. And it's almost like, I don't know if anyone here, probably most of you guys, has already taken acid or any psychedelics. Like when you when you have it, and then you start feeling when it's hitting, and you start feeling your brain melting or something, really like there's, I don't know, that's how I feel it. But there's a lot of heat in my brain when it starts happening. And this is also what it happens in my brain when I'm holding sound sometimes. And I'm like, oopsie, I know some spaces I've been doing this by myself. And I'm totally fine doing that by myself, but there is that fine line. I think Carolini was mentioning, like, what I'm holding still space for people here. So I've been having this ongoing conversation with this dimensionality that comes into my life when I am just doing dishes, when I drink coffee. Sometimes it just stretches, it goes there, but also it's happening when holding space. And I feel it's also related to the old time expression of losing one's mind, which it is coming from a paradigm that I'm trying also to digest and to go into the conversations with it, that what is it that I am actually losing, and why is this fear of losing this is still here after 3-4 years, after aphasia, after all of that. So there is this lingering process, this thing that is still here. And it's interesting how that sometimes also reflects in a way that it helps me hold the rooms that I enter in. Like there was this one session here. I've entered into this house, and the first word that I see is fear. Like I just step into the room, and there is this big word that comes in big letters, like fear. And I start walking into the house, and I keep feeling it, and my heart's pumping and all of that. So we sit down in the space, and I don't say anything. I just ask people to introduce themselves, and they are all like bringing this, like, I am afraid of losing my mind. I am afraid of going into these spaces. Like everyone was also processing that. So I do acknowledge how my own personal journeys are also these collective fractals that are coming. And I hope, well, I don't need to hope for anything, but I'm sharing it in the sense of understanding, maybe bringing more clarity into what is it that we are facilitating, as it is facilitating us, in even the word facilitating, as weird as it is, but understanding these mind spaces that are there, and how to hold this new brain that is coming. And it's very simple, and it goes into very simple spaces, like I'm having a conversation with someone, and boom, more listening hard, and then I cannot make sense of what the person is actually saying. But when I look at what I answer, I'm still answering what people like to the conversation, without even knowing that, oh, was I actually listening? So, and it is still a conversation that is made, and it's happening through it happening. And it's also related with the fact that I've been dreaming so much, and having to learn how to not to separate, but having to learn how to integrate, like, this is the dream, this is my wakeful state, has been also a little bit like tricky sometimes. Like, oh, this is wakeful moment, oh, this is dream moment, and these are the experiences that are
like I already mentioned, maybe for some of you guys that weren't there yet in the beginning, we did 2-day training a couple of weeks back in Netherlands, here in Rotterdam. When he invited me, and in the beginning I had no idea what it actually was, and then he mentioned like, yes, a facilitator training, blah blah blah. I'm like, whoa, you wanna like support? I'm like, whoa, I was super afraid. And actually I feel the same way. And I've some are coming up. Some of us know her, but Zinzi is gonna be a collaborate on an invitation I got on a little festival somewhere on the dunes here. And also with the sessions I facilitated so far were all with like pre-made sets, like playlists. And I guess many of you went through this, and I feel like it's not a reason not to go there, being afraid of something, but also like this whole thing of like actually starting to make the playlist live and all that is like, whoa, it's super scary in a way, and doing the sessions. And yeah, but I guess it's a good metaphor for life. Also flowing with intuition and trust, and same thing actually happened with the 2 days in Rotterdam. Just not like kind of getting yourself out of the way, whatever that thing is. I think Gra also mentioned like that that's facilitating, and yeah, so I guess it's good to, in my experience, putting it out there is already helping to share. Also, the scariness in a way. And it's fun. A couple of weeks back, I was in a personal session, and I was considering whether I was afraid of what I was before I came here. And like, am I afraid of what I was before I'm this? And there wasn't any sense of fear. So I'm like, why would I be afraid of what's after if I'm not afraid of what's before? Yeah. So yeah, I guess I'll keep it. I'll keep it there. There's many fascinating things happening, but I'll keep it brief for now and just look at all those fears that are coming in life and not taking them as a reason not to look at whatever that thing is, and whatever that me is, or also everything together that feels this fear. I can't really grasp it. Also, I asked me to share a bit in the beginning of this of the 2 days, as I feel like so many things are processing. It's like words don't really, but I feel many things are happening. So yeah, I'll keep it at that. Thank you all.
It's pretty late, so a very short one. I would like to share an experience we had last week during a training of a technique that is like a culture in Japan. It is called Katsuken Undo. It's part of Seitai. Seitai is a way of life. Japan is under the government care, so they want Seitai spread around the people. They want everybody knows this kind of way of life, way of thinking, way of feel the body. Basically, Katsuken Undo is a part of it. Is a technique. They don't like to call like that. So you have to, by standing up, you close your eyes, and with or without music, most of the time with music, you have to start to move your body, starting from your head. So there are 3 parts. They divide the most important things of your body. So the upper part, the central part, and the lower part. So by starting moving your body, little by little, you can feel everything inside of you and inside of your mind, not only physically. And you start to have like a kind of trip, like a inner dance trip, or whatever you want to call it. And the most common part of this kind of technique is that you can have a lot of elements clear of your life. I don't know, example, if you are a musician, you were missing just a part of your song, you cannot reach it. Okay, it comes to you, and a project, an idea, a thing that you want to do in your life. This is the most common part. This is the benefit of this kind of technique in the beginning, and then you start to travel. You start to have a journey. You start by standing up, and then there is a kind of technique of 3 kind of techniques of breathing. No, so during these trainings, the 5 days training, we offer the possibility to the 20 people present in the room to have an inner dance session with us. So we had all the equipment there, all the stuff. So usually I use DJ app with a lot of songs. I don't decide which song I want to use, because you can basically do everything you want with the song. You can reduce the speed, take off the drums, so you can convert a gamma song to a delta song, for example, and then you can. So it was like jamming now with them, 20 people, lay down. So then we start to share, and we had everything, like people that, a couple of them, they didn't feel nothing, just like some kind of movement and a light. Most of them, they saw colors, and visions until 3 persons. They had a clear vision of flying through a place. It was a city, and the journey was inside of them later. So it was particularly strong for them. So after the session of inner dance, we start again with Katsuke Nundo. They couldn't. These 3 people, especially, they couldn't do it because they couldn't start with the breathing technique, because immediately they start to feel a bunch of emotions and things. They started to cry immediately there. They were completely still inside of the journey. This wasn't bad for them. After the session, they came to us. They shared. They're grateful because they understood that was the experience they were waiting for. Everything happened after that. It was beautiful for them. They came back to the session of Katsuke Nundo. They finished the training, but they mixed 2 techniques, and for them, I think that was a very strong experience. And the most beautiful thing of this experience for me was that during the last moment when we share, 20 people, 20 different experience, 20 different way to show, to explain the experience, and 20 beautiful people sharing 20 beautiful words, different words, everybody all together, different, but the same trip, in the same moment, in the same sphere, in the same world where we are. So I got a beautiful message from that experience, and I think also for them, it was a beautiful message. So that's my sharing. Thank you.
What was the message though for you? What was actually the message?
The message is that we don't have to forget that each of us, we are a beautiful universe. We cannot say that we are a beautiful world inside us, because we are more than that. We are immense. We are giants in what we think and what we can do and what we can share. So we are beautiful universe all together. So everyone is a universe, and we can be together, and we can share together. We can respect. We can admit in our life, and we have to respect. We have to be curious on the other person, because we always can understand more. We can learn more. We can have more by sharing, by give, by be able to receive also, because this is a good a huge gap that some people have. Also for me, it's a huge gap. Be able to receive, to be open for everything. And this is something that maybe can sound like a common or normal, okay, yeah, it's something like a new age force, but I think it's important to remember it when especially when you have some bad experiences on your life with some kind of people. So you maybe start to stay behind your shield. So I think whatever happened, you have to open to these fantastic universes that are outside over there.
Wow. Yeah, amazing. I think what feels significant about what you shared when we do cross-modal journeys like this, when people can rise up vertically, and then when they can drop down horizontally in the inner dance process, to be able to access both the somatic and the autonomic nervous systems, which means to access the masculine and the feminine. Because when you stand up, there's an element of will, or like what Gra calls agency, the ability to act upon. And then when people are asked to go into the opposite of that, which is to surrender, then to bring that together, there's almost like an active surrender, or a willful surrender, where there's still the will, yet there's still this element where we can open up so that the will isn't just coming from what someone wants and someone is like trying, it's not coming from this struggle or this attempt or this tendency to want something to go a certain way, but to still move, yet to move openly, without really agenda. So based on your words, it's more like giving the universe the agency, and not just the small thing that's trying to control things. Yeah, that's really powerful. Okay, amazing. So as you say, it is late. It's late for us as well. It's midnight here. I actually was sleeping before this call already, so I just put up the alarm, wanted to check in with everyone, listen to your stories. So that was fun, thinking about the hardware, to think about the packs. What's interesting about Turkey, that was spoken here last year, was I sent a voice note in Turkey, being like having a lot of sound or access to sound. One of the interesting things we heard spoken from the Turkish is when someone is born, when you are born, you actually have your own sound. So there's a lot of respect and there's a lot of ritual placed upon honoring someone's sound. So I think when an actual death happens, then what happens to your sound then? Does it join the sound of everything? Which could be like white noise or silence, or the sound of the black hole, whatever that sounds like. I've heard something like that through my own journeys. In the silence, I would hear this pure noise. But yeah, there are these cultures that honor each other's sound, and that sound is the origin of life, of the being. So yeah, thank you for your sound, and may we each keep remembering our own sounds as we learn to accommodate the sounds of everything and everyone all around us. And there's just 8 billion people, and there's always these people who are born who aren't here anymore. Their sound still reverberates across the space, and we're receiving that like all the time, more and more. I think that's actually what's happening. And some people call it inner dance, some people call it something else. But I think we're learning to receive like the original sound. So thank you for taking part in the receiving of that. So let's close, everyone. It's amazing call. You could unmute, help me out with closing.
Caro.
Mario.
Bisous.
Bisous, bisous. Bonne nuit, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank
Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Mhm.